Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Super happy to have you here because today I'm going to be doing a book review, of all things. Crazy, I know. I'm going to be reviewing My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. I actually read this book in January, so it's not a recent read. So already that is a marker of a good book. The fact that I read it, 4 months ago now, and it's still on my mind and I still have a lot of the feelings about it that I did when I first read it, and I also feel compelled to tell other people about it. So in this book we have our nameless narrator. She's in her mid-20s, she's very beautiful, she's very rich, and she's also very depressed, and she's dealing with a lot of trauma, a lot of grief. Well, actually she's not really dealing with it, she's living with it. I would say she's definitely surviving rather than thriving. And yes, she's not dealing with it. And I guess that's the problem. But she has come up with an idea, a project, on how she can cure her depression, cure her grief, and that is to have a year of rest and relaxation. And when I heard this, just the title, I thought maybe, okay, she's gonna take up watercolor painting, maybe she's gonna do some restorative yoga, maybe have a nap or two. But no, instead of that, she is going to put herself into, a prescription drug-induced sleep as much as she can for an entire year. So obviously, not obviously, but just let you know, I'm going to be reviewing this through the eyes of someone who has dealt with pretty severe depression. So, when I was reading this idea, it didn't seem all that crazy to me. I have also had kind of the urge to, I remember during a very bad depressive spell, I was watching a video about a butterfly, a caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly, and the idea did come into my head, or it was the starting of an idea, what would be my version of a cocoon? I am a caterpillar right now, I need to be a butterfly, and so yeah. But I didn't take it as far as she did, let's just say that. I think we can all agree that, a book about sleep sounds like it's gonna be the literary equivalent of watching paint dry. And yet, no, this book is full of energy and it's full of weirdness and brutally honest observations and unique ideas. And my favorite, dark comedy. I think it was a very funny book in places, especially because, we're seeing through the narrator's eyes and in her mind, really. And, she has quite a satirical take on things. So yeah, there is a bit of, satire, especially with, archetypes and stereotypes of the people that she's had in her life and just, sees around. Yeah, I found it was a very touching, profound book, but not in a, self-righteous way. It was profound in a very, intuitive way. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's dark, but it is shocking. But in that way, it's refreshing. Ottessa Moshfegh is, she's not afraid to go there. Wherever there may be, she's gonna go there. So if you're used to maybe reading more, YA, or classics, or if this is your first sad girl, unhinged woman book, you might be a little bit, whoa, what's going on here? But I think this book in essence is, one aspect of it is a very deep character study. It's like we're reading her diary, but more than that, it's like we are in her mind, and so we feel the lethargy, we feel everything that she is feeling. And it can get a little uncomfy, not gonna lie, it can get uncomfy, and that's okay. Don't be afraid of discomfort. Magic happens outside of just go to sleep. The purpose of this project, and it really is a project, she is treating it like a, she's actually very organized about it, but the purpose of it isn't necessarily to heal or to rejuvenate herself. It's actually about erasing her whole identity. And then becoming a new person. And so in that way, I think, it's a very deliberate and kind of genius artistic decision that she's nameless. Everyone else in the book has names, and Ottessa, we're on first name basis now. She is very deliberate with names. For instance, one of the very central characters, her best friend. Well, we'll get into the friendship theme in a second. Her name is Riva, and Ottessa talks about. I watched this in an interview, not in a phone call with her. How like Riva starts with Re, and she's someone who like repeats things, she recycles ideas, she reiterates things. And then there's the psychiatrist, which is my favorite character, Dr. Tuttle. And you can very much imagine Dr. Tuttle just tuttling around. It's not really a word or anything, but the name just suits her so perfectly. So yeah, that's the whole purpose of it. And I think a lot of people, in reviews that I've read and watched, they don't like this book because there's no character growth, there's no like, wow, there's no butterfly moment. That's their own personal preference, if they need a book to have very much a character arc. But I think I like my books to be kind of as realistic as possible sometimes. And like, growth is just really rare in life, and her way of going about it, like I say, it wasn't about healing, it was about erasing. And when you're dealing with extreme or any sort of trauma, it's about integration, you know, it's about integrating as opposed to erasing. Okay, spoiler alert now, I'm going to talk about the ending, but not in a very specific way. I'm going to talk about what didn't happen in the end. We didn't get to see like what happens afterwards when the year is over. It just ends with the year being over. So we don't know what happened in the days and weeks and months afterwards. But I guess, taking an educated guess, she would probably have to like go to therapy, like probably, and maybe take some like vitamin D supplements, because she's probably got a big vitamin D deficiency. So the main character, like, she is very unlikable, which is pretty much the only way that Ottessa Moshfegh writes her characters. So she's very unlikable, but extremely human. And that, to me, when reading a book, like, that is so much more important than being likable. Reading this book is a lot like watching Girls, the TV show, which is one of my favorite shows. I rewatch it pretty much every year. So if you've seen that show and you've read this book, you kind of know what I mean. There's definitely a correlation. Yeah, I just gotta tell you, like, there is descriptions of sleep, so, and napping, but it's written in, like, very beautiful but unpretentious prose, so it's more like a kind of like meditations and reflections on sleep, but sleep through the lens of depression, because, you know, there's no doubt that sleeping after a long day of like hiking up mountains with your friends is very different from sleeping to escape your mind or reality. So depression sleep is different. Just looking at my notes here. Oh yeah, I also really liked that it was full of like 2000s pop culture and references and images, because, you know, that's kind of pretty much the time when I was growing up, like as a teenager, really. So yeah, I want to talk about the theme of toxic. It's not really a theme, but it's a big part of the story is toxic female friendship, because she has this best friend, Riva, like I say, who she doesn't like. They don't really like each other, and the main character is like, she's very flipping mean to Riva, and but her friend is kind of awful too. Like, they're both. Look, I'll read a quote that pretty much sums it up. I loved Riva, but I didn't like her anymore. We'd been friends since college, long enough that all we had left in common was our history together, a complex circuit of resentment, memory, jealousy, denial, and a few dresses I'd let Riva borrow, which she'd promised to dry clean and return, but never did. So they don't really like each other anymore, but yeah, they do love each other, and they're very codependent on each other. She goes on to say, I took a Polaroid of her one night and stuck it into the frame of the mirror in the living room. Riva thought it was a loving gesture, but the photo was really meant as a reminder of how little I enjoyed her company if I felt like calling her later while I was under the influence. Oof. I want to talk a little bit about how Ottessa Moshfegh actually came up with the idea. I'm just going to quote her, because she said it best. As I wrote the voice out, got what the voice was, the premise sort of revealed itself to me through the character. So I love that. I love that she wasn't just like sitting down thinking like, ooh, like I need a crazy wacky idea, like premise for my next book. She started with the character and let the character unfold, and like it just made me think like, wow, like writing when it's done well is like witchcraft. Like it's magical, it's alchemy, it should be illegal, banned. We should just. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the book does take place in her apartment, but not all of it. But for me, like the apartment almost became a character, as well as the bodega where she would go and buy all her coffees and her various weird assortment of snacks. That's another thing that I really liked. Just these little details of like what she actually ate and drank, when she actually ate or drank anything. But that's just me being purely just so voyeuristic. So yeah, I mean, honestly, there was lots of ideas and themes that were explored. So it's definitely not just a book about a girl sleeping for a year, so don't let that scare you off if you think it's gonna be boring. I can definitely say that this book is not boring.